Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. And indeed, we're sitting down again to talk about Fallout New Vegas 2. I know we talk about it a lot, but look, we had a choice this morning, man. I was debating it with our editor, Dan. I was like, do we talk about this whole Netflix Warner Bros. Acquisition, or do we kind of go with our heart and just get into New Vegas 2 again? And honestly, when I saw how many people were tagging me in this story, I was getting DM'd on Discord a ton about it, tagged in a bunch of different servers, and then y'all were leaving comments. I thought, okay, this is the video I think people really do expect from me. And frankly, I feel like I have a lot to say here. Now, I know usually I'm off the walls with these kind of topics, but I've talked about them so many times now that I'm feeling pretty objective today. The too long didn't read is Tim Cain is back full-time at Obsidian to work on a project that is currently unannounced. He says we're not going to be able to guess what it is, and so naturally everyone's guessing it's a new Fallout video game. This is pretty significant because most of the band is back together at this point. Obsidian is a Chris Avellone away from that whole original New Vegas squad. And obviously that is a pretty big omission, but Avallone's been gone since 2015. But there is some type of project here at Obsidian that is functioning as a gravitational pull that is bringing in a lot of old talent. John Gonzalez, who is the lead writer for Fallout New Vegas, came back for whatever was an exciting project at Obsidian. And now Tim Cain, who has posted a ton of YouTube videos talking about his time at Obsidian, all the RPGs he's worked on, it's a fantastic YouTube channel, has been pulled out of his semi-retired state where he was more like a contractor freelancer to now go full-time at Obsidian. So something's there that these devs have found very attractive, and sometimes nostalgia can be very alluring. But the question obviously remains for a lot of my audience is this a new Fallout video game? Naturally, we're going to go down the timeline, and then I'll share my thoughts after all of the information's in front of us. If you're new here and you're into everything going on in the games industry from Fallout to acquisitions and so on, consider subscribing. Okay, so the timeline. First and foremost, the reason that people believe that Obsidian would be working on a Fallout video game is because there was a report back in 2022 that Fallout New Vegas 2 was in very early talks at Microsoft. This was from Jeff Grubb, and here's the write-up. They said, speaking on the premium giant bomb show Grubb Snacks, VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb claimed the original developer Obsidian could create a sequel to the classic RPG now that it's under the same roof as license holder Bethesda. This is very early, but people have begun to have talks and say these words in sentences, and those words are Obsidian and New Vegas 2. We're talking years and years away. There's at least an interest and conversations happening about making something like that actually a reality. A lot of people at Microsoft think this could work, and there's a lot of interest to make it happen. And let's be real honest with ourselves. This is like unbelievable. It hasn't happened yet, but that was 2022. Now we're years and years away, right? If things are getting greenlit now, timelines are adding a little bit up with that report if everything remained consistent. Fergus Urquhart also, when speaking to Game Pressure, naturally he did have the very popular quote of saying, I would love to make another Fallout game before I retire. I don't know when that is. I don't have a date of my retirement, but my hope is one day it'll happen and we'll have to wait and see. But before all of that, he said, we're not working on Fallout and we haven't even talked about what it would be. Our plate's pretty full with Avowed, Grounded, in the Outer Worlds too. I don't know when we're going to start talking about new games, maybe toward the end of the year. We have to see what's going on. That's the best way to say it. There's nothing in the plans, nothing on a piece of paper that says that. But obviously, as we know, this year has been very impressively busy for Obsidian Entertainment, shipping Avowed, Grounded 2, and Outer Worlds 2. No matter how you feel about these games, I think when you look at the output for the rest of the industry, is a massive win. And for me, at least 2 out of the 3 of those games were really good. Grounded 2 is excellent, and I really like the Outer Worlds 2. And of course, you already know how I feel about Avowed. But the point being is the slate is clean. So this opens things up. And then, of course, to kind of put the cherry on top here, after all the layoffs and the studio shutdowns and the project cancellations by Xbox, then we heard from Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast that Fallout 5 is now reportedly fully greenlit. Again, really impressive ineptitude at Xbox, to be very blunt about it, that this would not be greenlit almost immediately upon making that acquisition. I totally respect developer freedom, but like, you know, it's also a money-making business, and Fallout is money, and it's very rare that you have this collection of talent together where it's like, oh, we can reliably make that thing that people want and do a good job with it. Now, just 2 more wrinkles I want to throw in there. The original staff from New Vegas. John Gonzalez is one of those. He was the lead writer on Fallout New Vegas, and he wrote 10 months ago, he's happy to share he's starting a new position as creative director at Obsidian Entertainment. And if you look at his work experience, I think it's a little interesting. First and foremost, he says he's back for exciting times at Obsidian Entertainment, but no, it's not Fallout New Vegas 2. However, I was looking at his other work experience, and he also says that it was a privilege to work with this incredibly kind and talented team, but a new opportunity arose that I straight up couldn't resist. Now, if you go to John Gonzalez's credits as a writer, it's Fallout, it's Tom Clancy, and it's Horizon, and it's some Middle-earth stuff. So if it's from his past portfolio, I can only think of one thing, but he's been clear it's not New Vegas 2. You also have to throw in there that the director of Fallout New Vegas is still at Obsidian Entertainment, and Josh Sawyer. So he's there now. And then, of course, Tim Cain has just rejoined. And the studio head is the same in Fergus Urquhart. So the whole band, again, is back together. The really only notable exits from Obsidian that I can think of in the last 10 years are, of course, Chris Avellone. Again, do not want to undersell that because, you know, you can feel the missing pen there, specifically with Outer Worlds 2's companions. Just not as good. Megan Starks was another. She directed Murder on Eridanos for the Outer Worlds 1, which is one of Obsidian's best DLC, in my opinion. And then Carrie Patel left earlier this year. She directed Avowed, but was one of like the lead figures on things like the Pillars universe and was also like a major team member for Obsidian, one of their big leaders. So there have been notable exits, but you've brought this band back together. And as far as I'm concerned, let's address the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people seem to not be very happy with Obsidian Entertainment, and I say this as someone who has been heavily critical of Avowed, that granted, I'm one of the people who liked the Outer Worlds 1 a lot, so keep that in mind with my opinion, but I feel like there is a very strong reaction to that game specifically. I feel like they're one of the few companies that showed, right now at least, it's a bit of a blip on the radar, because I think the Outer Worlds 2 was significantly better, but like it's not even close when it comes to Avowed. Grounded is great. Pentiment was a Game of the Year contending title. Grounded 1 was awesome. And before even that, when a lot of this original band was together, you got the likes of Pillars of Eternity 1, 2, Tyranny. So I feel like Obsidian's output outside of Avowed has been very good, where yes, I would totally be for them working on a new Fallout game, especially if they use the systems that you find in Outer Worlds 2. I think anyone who likes New Vegas would be very happy with that because of the reactivity the game holds, but also just the build crafting is unreal and how good it is. The amount of loot that's unique in that game is also really good. Like, it's just a very fun game to play, aside from, I think, some pretty good choices. I just think the companions could have been a lot better, and the second half of the game being built around them definitely hurts the product a bit. But the question is, for many of you, is it a new Fallout game? I mean, you have an employee there being very clear it's not New Vegas 2, but naturally there's been a lot of us who went, well, it's not New Vegas 2 because it's Fallout New Orleans, or whatever you want to call it, right? So I get that. And there's a part of me that does think this is the case, but I feel the tune at Obsidian has changed pretty dramatically since that 2022 report. You have to remember something, that Obsidian has always been the little brother company, is what I call them. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but they've always kind of done a great job following up someone else's Game of the Year style performance, right? So here comes Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Happens to be my favorite game of all time. Obsidian, a year later, is like, you're going to make the second game in this franchise. And they did, I think, an incredible job. It's my favorite RPG of all time. You can check out that video on Retro Rebound if you'd like to. Anyway, it's an incredible video game, but when people talk about Knights of the Republic, it's usually about the first game, and this isn't really Obsidian's effort. They're just kind of following up on someone else's work. Then look at Fallout 3 comes out, changes things. It's a whole new look for Bethesda. It's the Game of the Year title. Obsidian releases Fallout New Vegas, though, and at that release, people were calling it Fallout 3 DLC. Obviously, we feel a little bit differently about that nowadays, but again, these are the steps in Obsidian's history. They didn't really get to work on their own things. I say all this because when you look at a recent interview from the game business where they said, I know everyone on the internet on every game we announce asks, when's the next Fallout New Vegas? When's the next whatever? But this year, all 3 of the games are IP that we've created. Our history prior to Microsoft surrounded working on others' IP. And this is the joy that we get. How do we build our own IP? And we've got to the part where we have sequels to all of them. So for them, this could be 2 things, right? One could be, we did that, awesome, we feel validated, let's go work on someone else's thing again. Or it could be, hey, are we going to do an Avowed 2? Now, it's never been confirmed if this was something Avellone actually knew or if he was speculating based on something he read. And even though I'm friends with him, I don't want to use him as a source and be like, hey, dude, like, what did this mean? But he did put on his Twitter account, apparently aside from DLC plans for the Outer Worlds 2, it seems like Obsidian is making no plans for Outer Worlds 3, but they are doing Avowed 2. Now, I with all due respect, don't think Avowed 2 would be this gravitational pull for the entirety of the old New Vegas team to come together, or whatever is bringing new talent into Obsidian. But just to be honest, it's kind of up in the air for a lot of people looking at this. Like, there's a lot of reasons why they should be working on a Fallout game. Number one, it's what the people want. Like, I'm just going to be really honest about that. I know there's the artist and consumer balance here, but people have been patient, and this is what they want. And I feel like a lot of people would be foolish to not do this. Number two, there is the mortality aspect of it all. Like, how rare is it to get basically the entirety of that original squad back together on a leadership core front? I mean, to be able to even do this again and see if they can replicate some magic, and even if it's not New Vegas, to a new Fallout game from them, would be really exciting. So there's that. Three, of course, is the business necessity. Microsoft completely changed their profit margins. Obsidian kind of needs to fall in line with that, but also Microsoft wants to make a lot of money right now, and you got to make some safe bets when you're doing that. I know Obsidian's talked extensively about budgeting responsibly, but you have to keep this stuff in mind, and I have to wonder a bit if that would be another motivating factor to take on a Fallout video game versus The Outer Worlds 2, which I think is a significantly better game than the original as well as Avowed, but did not seem to get the player count that it really deserved. Again, not trying to oversell it like it's this perfect RPG, but I think it deserved a better fate than it got. So those are motivators for why they could be doing it. But I'm going to be honest with you all. I feel like they're just not doing it. I want to believe. I want it to happen. I feel they do a great job, and I feel like it'd be passing up on a great opportunity here where there's a whole world of sense to be made around it all. So fighting against that may sound weird, but the reason I don't think it is number one, if you look at Tim Cain's entire credits, I could see this being a new Arcanum. I mean, there's a lot of games that Obsidian or Obsidian leadership talent worked on that they have a fond memory for, like Neverwinter Nights as well. Like, I could see a world where they are bringing a old RPG into the modern age, and that could be what has lit the fire of a lot of this old leadership core to come back to this team full time. Because I just feel like with that original 2022 leak, we're really hanging on to this statement from Jeff Grubb, which we've received no updates on. We know Fallout 5 has been greenlit, and is it possible Obsidian's inheriting the next mainline entry? Maybe, but Todd Howard's already said that they're doing Fallout 5, so I don't think it's Obsidian now handling the mainline series, although that would also be exciting. So I think it's an old Obsidian IP of some kind, like one of those games that they could turn into the next Fallout in spirit, right? Because think of it this way, like Fallout was this CRPG, and it's like very old looking, and you saw how Bethesda kind of reinvented that with Fallout 3 and made it accessible and exciting to people like myself. I could see Obsidian looking at other CRPG franchises just like Larian did recently with Baldur's Gate and saying, hey, there's a whole market for this. What if we did this with like Arcanum? Again, I could see that being a possibility. To me, the quote that really hangs me up on this point is just that Tim Cain saying, you won't guess what it is. And I think we all know what the initial guess is. It is a new Fallout game. Like, just broadly speaking, it doesn't have to be, oh, it's not really New Vegas 2. It's actually this. Like, the first thought we have is it is a new Fallout video game. So if he is saying it's not something you're going to be able to guess, it's either a new IP, which I think would be really strange for Tim to come out of retirement for, or something that's like a deep cut in his catalog that is somehow coming back and in a new way that he would find very interesting to work on. So that's my take. I want it to be a new Fallout game. I do. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it would be a real waste for what talent is here right now at Obsidian and just the expressed desires of the team collectively. But also, like, I just feel if it were Fallout, it probably would have leaked multiple times over now. Like, I don't know how we get the whole starting of this conversation of like 2022, there's murmuring of New Vegas 2 and Obsidian being passed around. And then we move 3 years down the line and there's just been there's been no updates or anything. So yeah, that's my ultimate thoughts on this new kind of development in the New Vegas 2 pipeline here. I think because Bethesda has the Fallout 3 remaster on the way, and then Elder Scrolls 6, and then inevitably Fallout 5, I could see a world where they think like a 3 remaster and a New Vegas remaster will just hold us over, and that'll be that. But Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with my thoughts. I'm curious to see how you feel about a New Vegas 2 from Obsidian, of course, on the level of, is it happening or is it not? Is there any evidence kind of going against what I have suggested here today? I would love to hear from you. Other than that, though, fire away, and I'll catch all of you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.